God is the only one that loves you? What if the husband is a jackrabbit? What if he lacks all there is to know about making a woman moan? What if she dies not having her soul ripple, her body shake, fall apart from the hands and tongue of a man who has done his work, a lover of all things woman? God, what if he's gay? What if he wishes to be making love to a man? Heaven forbid her body is never touched with the tenderness that we deserve from the moment we are born. It's from a society that throws half-naked, sexualized women in sunglasses commercials, making us hide our daughters' eyes while the men smoking Cuban cigars laugh, making millions off the easiest marketing idea invented. The female body is the greatest piece of art. Of course it sells. Shame on us for giving it away and then playing the victims, the big bad media wolves forcing our hands to paper to sign. There are no victims here. Women are also to blame. It's from a society that shrieks at nipples, turns away. They're the same as mine, but they're sexual. Put them away. I can feel the breeze on my sweltering chest in August, but you must cover yours. It's from a society that cuts off women's genitals, doesn't give them the right to vote, to work, to live, to love who they choose, covers them in clothes, know not to hide them from the sun, marries them away at 14 to a 21-year-old who drinks 4 bottles of whiskey a day, who falls asleep drunk after they have sex each night. Boring, missionary sex with no foreplay. While she speaks quietly into the night of wanting to be a lawyer, of how she would bring justice with all her might. He closes her legs. The mother's mouth is still dropped. Masturbation, 2 times a day, 3 if needed. His white coat whisks behind him as the door shuts. Oh, mama, the world we live in is changing.
So how and where did you write that?
I wrote that, I honestly wrote that, I think, 7 years ago.
Okay.
I wrote it a long time ago, and I was in California, and I had just finished working with a client who is still in my life, and she was doing some work around releasing a lot of shame around her sexuality, and she came from a really deeply religious background. And so it started as part of her story and flowed into frustration with the general oppression of women in so many ways all over in different corners of the world. And so it kind of weaves in and out of fiction and nonfiction. I don't know if your poems do that, but mine definitely do. And a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, usually something is either fiction or nonfiction. And then sometimes I'll just like branch off into my imagination. But it's not necessarily like a, something that's made up. But yeah, they're all entangled, I guess.
Yeah. Parts of it are true. And a lot of the times what I write from is true. And then that kind of just, I remember reading an article about some girls in India whose genitals were cut off. And I remember, so that I did pull from real things. Maybe they weren't things I directly experienced or saw, but just things in the world. And yeah, part of my why, it's interesting, being honest and being open and being bold kind of led me into what is called feminism. And I don't really, yes, I care about women's rights, but it's almost, if you're bold and you have a voice in this world, people are like, you're a feminist.
Oh, they define you as that, even if you don't necessarily define yourself that way, just by being powerful is what you're saying.
Yeah, or outspoken or something. And I do think that women taking up space and walking tall is a really important part of our world integrating and healing. And so, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. But also, we're all in Buddhism, there's a belief that we're all 33 parts masculine and 33 parts feminine. And
Okay.
I think that we're both. And so there's an integration for everyone into their feminine parts that I feel like needs to happen. We could have a female president who wasn't integrated in her feminine parts and she could suck. So I think it's important to.
Everyone can have the opportunity to be equally great and equally as sucky.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I have one poem that says, "Who says feminists hate men? The only bashing of men that I do is with my vagina."
Well,
There's the shock value.
yeah. It does make me pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kind of leaves me speechless, so if that's what you're looking for, then but it also then invites people into the next line.
That's the only line.
Yeah. But I'm sure you do have, like, you're an equal opportunist basher. I'm sure you do bash. I mean, I bash everyone. I bash myself too. I think it's important. Bashing is good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm working on, I think one of the things I'm personally working on is criticalness, because often if we're being critical of this world, we're also being critical of ourselves. So that's a human thing.
Well, tell me about the book and what you want people to get from it. And I mean, I'd love anybody who is listening to this to obviously check out Yana's work. She's really, really amazing. And I know that this book is incredible. So I'm excited for it to come into the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as this goes, I've written thousands of poems. I probably have 8 books of poetry written, and so I always just go somewhere in nature and intuitively go to like the big database and pull things that feel right into each collection. And so it is always, always, always honest. It's one thing that feels really important for me is being truthful and teaching from personal experience. And this contains books of everything from the journey of forgiveness with my father, who I found, which we've talked a lot about, and some other poems that were really scary to publish about being the other woman, which I never, ever, ever thought I would be the other woman, and then I was. And
what does that mean? Like somebody was cheating, or you were in a multiple person relationship?
I know we have to clarify that because we live in California, don't we?
Yes, that's true.
No, I was the other woman. I was friends with somebody who was in a relationship that was close to being done, and I was with him twice.
Got it.
Yeah.
See, that didn't even come. That option wasn't even in my head.
Yeah, and I'm the integrity police, so I really truly thought that would never ever happen, and then it did, and I learned why integrity is so important, and also tons of humility around human beings and where we end up and what we can learn from it. So there's poems in here about that, and I think that all of us have the capacity to be the victim, the villain, the hero, all of the parts, and so I try and show and bring people into all of those parts with the understanding that we're all human, and to just normalize not just the emotions, but the different parts of the human experience. Do you know Neil Donald Walsh's work?
Remind me, he's the Conversations with God guy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's cool. I really liked that first book. I read it when I was young, and it really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's interesting because it resonated with me as a book, but it also just resonated as a practice. I mean, it is so interesting that if you ask a question and you imagine that there's a higher power answering it, you most often will give the right answer. It's just an interesting practice. If you were to sit and go, I have a question, and then you asked God in your mind, God's going to respond.
I do a visualization sometimes where I will sit and imagine a big telephone has like the spiraling cord going up into
You
the
don't know anything about that. I'm way older than you. I remember. I had one of those cords.
But I did this on a dock in Canada. I was quarantining in the fall and I was stuck. And I was talking with a numerologist and she was like, Yana, you don't have to figure it all out. You can ask for support from above. And so I laid on this dock on this lake and I closed my eyes and I, in the visualization, imagined just calling up and just said, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. You know, I need support and clarity and guidance. And yeah, it's nice to remember that we can ask, whether you believe in God or spirit or whatever your belief is around energy and there's something up there. there's something. So I really like that remembrance. I think it's really important to also tap into that magic and that truth, to know that, to dissolve some of the story of separateness and aloneness as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think God has an agenda?
I don't know. Sometimes I think about God like looking down on the world when we're surfing, being like, what are those little two-leggeds doing with those pieces of plastic in the water? Or just what it would be like to look down on us as we are in existence, almost like looking down from an airplane. But as far as having an agenda, if he does, I hope it's a good one. I hope it's leading us towards somewhere that we're supposed to be.
Do you think that God wants something from you?
I think that the only truth I truly believe in is that we are all made of love, and that we don't need to do anything as love. Like, we're born as love and we don't need to do anything to get love. And so I think if there was a God or a person in the sky, I think that the only thing they would want would be for people to remember that they are love and to really step into their belonging and love and appreciate each other. So if there was an agenda, I think the agenda is love.
Let's see what the people are saying. I just imagine it's like a parent-child relationship, probably sick of us, but loves us. That's interesting. So God is like a disgruntled parent, is what you're saying. I think it's an interesting question. I don't really have an answer to it, but does God have an agenda? Like, does God want anything from you? Or does God want anything for humanity? Does God even think that human beings are a higher life form than any other life that's roaming around the planet or even the universe? It's kind of an interesting question to play around with. You know, you can wrestle with it. You'll never win or lose. But, you know, it's fun to push against.
What do you think that there's going to be after us?
Okay, my belief on everything, which I'm open to changing at any time, and then we got to get back to your book because we got to keep hammering. This
is the book. It's all the book. It's fine.
Okay. My belief is that God is one thing, and one thing can't experience itself because it's one thing. So God, not a he or a she, or even an it. I don't even know what the right word is, but God separated itself so that it could experience itself. And that's what the universe is. The universe is an opportunity to have a world of separation, you know, a world of dichotomy. I don't even mean a physical world, but a physical world too. But just like separation, dichotomy, and then in that separation and that dichotomy, God could see how beautiful it is. But it could only see how beautiful it is by seeing how ugly it is, which means it had to create ugly to know beautiful. I think that's what the world is. And then I think that from a biological standpoint, human beings, this is not like a popular opinion or anything like that. I actually don't share it very often, but I think that my wife and I were having a heated conversation last night over shrimp spaghetti, And I think that human beings are here for like two or three things, basically. Like the primary focus is survival, and then comfort, and then meaning or purpose. And that you can probably categorize most people's lives into those three buckets. It shows up in very different ways. So somebody just wrote evolution. I think evolution is the purpose of life. I don't even think that human beings are the highest form of life. I think that life is the highest form of life, and it wants to keep evolving, and we are a part of that evolution. That's why I think having kids has to be the highest ride, because you are actively taking part in evolution. Like by creating more life, you become a part of evolution experientially, on the other side of just being created. And I'm unclear that God has any agenda about what he wants or she wants or it wants from us as individuals or as a collective or even as humanity. I don't know that God cares about climate change. You know, I don't have any sense of that. What I have a sense for myself is personally that I would like to try to leave this place a little bit better by connecting to people, by loving myself and others, by impacting them in hopefully a positive way. I would like to survive. I would like to create abundance or comfort. And I would also like to have purpose. And so my chosen life purpose is to be a part of evolution, hopefully, fingers crossed, and to try to impact other people positively so that they have a better experience while they're here as people, and hopefully they can then ripple that out into their, you know, immediate family and then community, and then yeah. I think the purpose of life is to evolve and to experience it. So I want to help people to remove the blocks that stop them from being in the world and fully experiencing it so that they can connect to themselves and other people. What did somebody else say? I think he wants to make what he has created worth the effort, and that's on us. Now, that's a beautiful frame. And I think everybody deserves to look through whatever frame they want to. As I said, as long as they're not using that frame to hurt or oppress other people. And you have a lot of that going on right now. So,
when I think of life having meaning, I automatically think of our purpose and our work. But meaning is not just purpose and work, is it?
Well, what does it mean to you? Because I kind of went on a diatribe.
For me, it's definitely like Dharma, life's work. What are you here to contribute and give back to humanity? But I was just thinking that not everybody knows, is clear of, or maybe that's not how they would define meaning. You know, like some people may define meaning as family or connection or love or some of the other pieces. So I was just noticing how work and why oriented my meaning piece was. How would you define meaning?
I think meaning changes over time because we change over time. In fact, if meaning doesn't change over time, you're not living your life correctly, because you have to be open to new things. And then in being open to new things, you become someone new. Like, I think we're here to change the world, but I think we're also here for the world to change us. And so I think meaning, if you're open to being changed, will continue to transform over time. Like, do you think, like, I know this is like so funny because for everybody who's watching, we really are. We said at the beginning, I'm aware that this is a part of your time, so I don't want to waste it. But we also have to play and explore different concepts, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually. You know, it's just fun to kind of get messy and see what happens. And this isn't, as I said, like, or as I was starting to say, this isn't like the most necessarily like optimistic conversation. But like, I don't think that God misses the dinosaurs. Like, I don't, like, I think about God thinking like, do you think he's like, oh, like I miss when the comet came down and wiped out the dinosaur. Like, I don't think God misses the dinosaurs. I don't think God would miss the dinosaurs any more than God would miss us. I think, like, I think if we became some sort of a hybrid between like AI and robotics and biology, that would be the next evolution of life. And so, like, if I was about to die and I couldn't be with my wife and tell her how much I love her, which I agree with you is probably the foundational thing that we return to, the oneness of love, and what we're supposed to learn how to cultivate here, no matter what the circumstances or the environment is, then if I couldn't talk to my wife, I would just want to be in the world. I would want to take a breath. I would want to look around. I would want to feel the air. I would want to feel the gravity. I would want to feel the breath in my lungs, because that's life is meant to be experienced. You know, if you went back into oneness, you'd probably, if you could possibly be in oneness and simultaneously have a sense of yourself as separate, you would probably want to go back to a world of dichotomy, because oneness would be forever bliss. Wouldn't forever bliss wind up being hurtful as well?
Yeah, because I think it's Abraham Hicks who says we create contrast for the purpose of making choices and direction and understanding and clarity. Yes. Yeah. People would be bored if there was no contrast, and they would, I mean, for instance, we live in California. We live in a beautiful place, and sometimes I take it for granted. And then when I travel and I come back, I'm like, holy shit, there's dolphins everywhere when I'm surfing, and it's warm, and there's, I just went and had like an acai peanut butter bowl, and I was like, I love where we are. I love where we live. And yet when you live in that constant state, there can be, I think we start to create contrast. We start to create drama or war or struggle out of boredom sometimes for some people as well.
Well, because if you were constantly in survival, you wouldn't have time to worry about meaning. The only thing you would deal with is survival and comfort. That's what really we come from, is moment to moment survival. And that's where you pay all of your attention. And so now that we have all this space to think about meaning and purpose, we create drama around that. Because we're the only animal that I'm aware of that has a sense of the ecosystem and being in it, and also has a sense of this macro view beyond it. It's not like an elephant.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How much of meaning in the context of, from a mission and work perspective, is driven by, do you think for human and mankind, or humankind, is from an ego space and about us versus is actually for the world and the planet?
Well, people tend to get either really generous or really selfish when they make a lot of money. It tends to be one or the two, because they have more. So at that point, they either realize, I have so much, now I have enough to be able to give back. Or they go, I have so much, I'm going to make sure that I keep it and give it to my great, great, great grandkids, or whatever that winds up being. The people that I really deeply respect are the people that are out there doing activism, spending their time trying to help other oppressed people and communities, and they don't have for themselves. They often are so enwrapped in that world that they're kind of constantly moment to moment living in that suffering. there's a saying, you know, you wake up every day and you decide whether you're going to save the world or savor it. I don't have a sense of what other people do or why other people do it. For myself, I tend to feel like I'm pretty self-involved. Even when I have things that I really care about, it's like I care about them, you know, but yeah, I don't know. It's not a clean answer, but yeah.
But quick question there, and that actually leads into what I wanted to ask you is,
Why are you interviewing me? You need to be talking about your book.
This is the book. It's all the book. It's all energy. We can read poem in a second, but there needs to be, I think, as artists, a certain level of self-involvement and self-introspection to be able to have words to say, to give to the world. I think there's a certain level of being with ourselves that needs to happen to create art that is worth reading or saying or seeing. And so I guess I wanted to ask you that. I've had a whole journey with activism that used to be more focused around working with animals in Central America and Latin America and rabies and educational campaigns. And I would do fundraisers and raise money and go down and be in like the recovery area covered in like anal secretion and pee and poo. And it was very in your face, wild, tangible activism. And I contributed a lot of my life force to it, and for many years. And then actually as my brand and my work grew as a poet, and it was so bold, the organization I was working with had a really deeply religious root, and they were like, we can't be associated with you anymore.
Wow.
And I was like, well, wait, but I love this cause. You know, this is so important to me. And it really had me stop and go, well, what is my activism, and how is my activism, and how am I going to show up and serve this world? And two of the things that I realized are, it's still important to me to take part in causes that support. I give a lot of fucks about animals. I give a lot of fucks about people, but I feel like animals have no voice and will always be drawn there. And I also believe that art has the ability to be activism and is opening and changing and shifting this world. So I was going to ask you a question, which is, with your activism, do you feel like your art is part of your activism in this world?
I mean, I do as many charities as I possibly can, you know, with the energy and the time that I have. And I have written many poems about things that I care about, and I've donated a lot of money. I mean, I don't talk about it publicly, but I donate where I can, and how I can. But I mean, you know, I'm not on the front lines. I haven't dedicated my life to it. If you ask me, do I think that art is a part of activism? I think that they are certainly separate, and they are certainly intertwined. I think that art has the potential of changing culture, and that culture changes politics, and politics changes policy. So I think that from that standpoint, there is a ladder to making real change, not only in people's minds and in their hearts, but in reality, which is kind of the most important thing. But I never feel like I'm doing enough. You know, I mean, and I am definitely not doing enough. I mean, I feel like I'm not doing enough, and I'm also not doing enough. And, you know, like I did a gun violence poem, and it got a lot of views, and we did some charity work, and we gave away some money, and then I sat on a panel the other day with a man who lost his daughter in Sandy Hook, and yeah, just, you know, I mean, I want to retire that piece. I don't ever want to do it again. And it was hard to, you know, this man is actually out there trying to change people's policies, trying to change the politics. And that certainly was not his journey in life before this. So, look, I think we show up where we can show up, and how we can show up, and we all have special gifts, and hopefully we use those gifts to the best of our abilities.
From a space of love, I would just like to, I see you hold your activism deeply in poetry, and I've read the gun violence poem, and we can also get in sometimes comparisons, but I am sure there have been people that have been moved and shifted and changed by that poem, even though it may not be to the same comparison. And the other thing is, remember you did that like anti-Trump video way back in the day?
I did.
Yeah, that was powerful. I showed that to a lot of people, and that moved. I remember watching that video, and everything in my body was activated. There was a huge activation and impact, and not just on my own human and make my own choices, but I do think that you use your art to create impact and to touch the world in a really beautiful way. And I appreciate your boldness and the openness and directness at which you communicate it with. So yes, there is always more to do.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I remember somebody did come up to me and tell me that they voted differently than they would have after hearing that poem. So that was actually nice, because then I was like, okay, cool. It seemed like that one person made all the death threats worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to read one more poem?
Yeah.
To close out, we gotta get people on your incredible book that you're. When are you dropping it, by the way? When is it?
It's dropped.
It's out.
It's out.
Now.
She's out.
She's in the world.
She's in the world. Yeah. I want to read something. I'm feeling really happy and joyful today. And I don't know if you ever go through your books and go like, that just feels kind of heavy. And I just don't want to, like, even there's cobwebs in her vagina. I was like, I am dancing to respect. I'll get a little respect. Like I'm like on a high flying.
That's great. You know, I'm going to say something to the people that are on here. I follow this guy, Pomp. He's like a crypto dude. Mm-hmm. And he's a Bitcoin dude, actually, to be more specific. Anyway, I heard a podcast that he did the other day. He said he wakes up every day and he goes, today is going to be an amazing day. And then when he goes to sleep at night, he goes, today was an amazing day. And it's so stupid and simple, but it works. So for the next week, wake up in the morning and just say, today is going to be an amazing day. And then when you go to bed, just say, today was an amazing day, even if it wasn't. Because there are people right now that are going through some real serious shit. I'm getting, messages from people in Afghanistan right now. And you know what? If you're lucky enough to have the sun shining and have food in front of you, and it's like we have to appreciate this moment. Yeah. So with that, maybe you could read something that's more in that vein.
Okay. Let me find a minute. Oh, this is good. This is about living. It's little. It's called Oh Great Spirit. We've been talking a lot about God and spirit, so there you go. Oh wild eyes, oh wide heart, oh great spirit. May you drink the yellow grass that is thirsting on the sides of the Cretan highways. May you put the blue of the never-ending sea inside the pocket of your soul for forever keeping. May you trap the sound of crickets calling at the world to slow down, even if we may never listen. I am listening. May we thank the mountain water that collects at our mouths to drink, the green pears that hang welcoming from the tree. Pluck me, drink my juice, nourish your body. O great life, I am here within each side of your red heart that beats without us asking, that puts us to sleep with stars each night and wakes us with a gift of 1,000 suns. Who am I to be so lucky to wake up each day and live? Blessed is today, for my eyes remain wide to see all that you are to me. Just a little one. Just a little sweet one.
That's beautiful. That made me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to have little, yeah. I mean, we write it all. And there's ones that feel lighter than other ones. So,
Well, look, I'm glad that you're in a good mood.
yeah. I mean, but it's all, I was actually, you're going to appreciate this. I was surfing in Crete, which, yes, there's surfing in Greece, but there's not really waves. It's tiny 1 foot waves. And there wasn't really waves, but it'd been 30 days. So I rented a board and paddled out. And there was a guy from somewhere else in Europe beside me. And he was like, oh, there's small waves. And I just looked at him and I was like, hey, it's all surfing. You know, the actual surfing waves, the no waves, the patience, the all of it is surfing. And I think we really forget to celebrate all of the pieces and acknowledge the gifts in them. So, yeah. Thanks for surfing through this conversation with me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for everybody who stayed on or jumped on and off throughout. I hope that you've gotten some value out of this and, you know, sending you good vibes wherever in the world you are.
Yeah.
And definitely get Yana's book. Hold it up one more time so that people can see it. And follow her. She's really an incredible person and an incredible artist. And I'm excited for you. So congratulations.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for choosing to support and contribute your energy and time as well. I appreciate you. And yeah, I love our conversations always.
Sounds good.
Always. All right.
All right, Yana, lots of love.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.